Hi, this is my FMOD implementation project in Unreal for Cropout. Let's take a look at how everything was set up. Let's start with the music. If we take a look at the game mode blueprint, we can see that it doesn't just handle the start of the music and ambient sounds at the beginning of the game. It also takes care of stopping the music when the pause menu is opened and triggering the endgame music parameter, which was designed to custom control the fade out of the music track. And here's how the parameter works. And now let's hear it in the game. But how is the coda value triggered, which in the engine corresponds to a value of 1 and allows the fade out to happen? Simple. I've attached them to the restart and main menu buttons. Here you can also see the press button sound. As you might imagine, the same approach was used when transitioning from the menu music to the in-game music, as well as for the ambient sounds. In FMOD, it's the same as before. Now, for the pause during gameplay, I wanted two specific behaviors: a high cut filter applied to the music when the pause menu is opened, and sliders that allow the players to adjust the volume of both the music and the sound effects. So, I created a snapshot in FMOD to cut the low frequencies. And I trigger it using a parameter called GameState. Here's the parameter as it's called in engine. For the sliders, I needed to create a dedicated VCAs in FMOD. And then call it in engine. But I needed to create a VCA variable in FMOD in order to control both sliders. By the way, if you haven't noticed, the sliders actually play a sound when you interact with them. And that's actually the reason why I used the VCA variable. Now, let's move on to what was, for me, the most challenging part of this project: getting the camera's distance in real time so I could control the values sent to an FMOD parameter and trigger different ambient sounds based on the camera's position. So, the first step was to retrieve the camera's distance values. I did that, initially using a simple print string to check the output. Once I had the minimum and maximum values, I used them to define the range of the FMOD parameter. After that, all that was left was to call the camera distance parameter from Unreal. As always, there's a sound tied to the camera zoom. I know you notice it. Here it is. This one, on the other hand, you haven't heard yet. It's linked to the camera rotation. Anyway, going back to the ambient sound, here's how it's managed in FMOD. Now, let's take a look at the villagers. They're simply animations with an FMOD event attached to them, and of course, specialized. You might have heard that sort of a humming yawn sound. That's something I linked to the FX animation of the character's little sleep effect. But first, I needed to figure out where it actually was. These are the sounds related to selecting, deselecting, and directing the characters. The little sound when an object is selected. And these are the blueprints related to selecting and directing the characters. You can also see the related FMOD setup. You can hear an LFO controlling the pitch. Here you can also find a blueprint for when a buildable object is moved, and the associated FMOD setup. Let's actually see this behavior in the game. This is the build big button sound. It needed its own specific sound. The sounds for when an object is placed or rotated. The last one was the back button. I linked the hover sound to the generic UI buttons. Finally, we can take a look at two different UI sounds for defeat and victory. And this is what happens in the game. Thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed working on this project and I hope you found it interesting.